Hi, everyone. According to the information I have, most of you are interested in product management and want to learn more about it. And yeah, I'm excited to be sharing with you my experience so far. And I hope for you to get away some actionable tips in order to validate business ideas and also validate feature enhancements, for product enhancement or features that you are thinking about doing in your product. So I hope this is my main objective was to do a speech as broad as possible, and I hope it resonates with you, and it's providing you information, valid information that you can apply in the future. So please, at the very end, feel free to ask questions, feedback, and yeah, we'll be happy to hear from you. So how to build the right product through user research and MVPs. As I said at the very beginning, this is based on my previous experience as an entrepreneur and product manager. I've worked for several startups, and everything started with you have the greatest idea, especially in a startup I worked. So you have the greatest idea as an entrepreneur or the product manager, and you say, oh my God, this is gonna meet my users' needs. I've had this pain myself, and we should definitely start building it. Everything looks great on paper, and of course in your mind, because your idea came from you, and you think there isn't another solution, better solution out there. So that's what you do. And most of the people, and this is a very big mistake. So as I want to share, I'm starting with the mistakes in order to see why it's a mistake and what we should do instead. So you have this fantastic idea, and you start building it. It happened to me when I quit, exited my business. I started to work for this startup here in Barcelona, a very small startup, and the founder had an idea. So she said, okay, let's hire a developers team, and let's start working on it. So we spent almost 6 months building the product, which I didn't agree with, because we were never talking to users. And she said, no, this is a perfect way we have to do it. This is the best idea. There is anything solving this problem, and so on and so forth. So that's what we did for 6 months. And as you can see, I just put this image in order to make it a little bit more funny, to say, with children. And these people are building a solution, let's say, for giraffes. I don't know, they are thinking that giraffes probably are not reaching even higher to get food on a tree, because the food is at the very top. So they're bringing this solution, no? And what happens next? When you start with the idea and you start with the solution, you've already kind of quick jump start into the solution is not the way to do it. No, because as I said, you're excited because it's your own creation, you've got the power, and you're building this. But as you can see the giraffe, if you see the second image, the giraffe, it doesn't look like quite a good solution for the giraffe, because giraffes cannot climb. So imagine this person builds a ladder and they're trying to help, because in their mind, everything in our mind looks great. But when you go out there, you see that users are not using it because it's an ill-fitted solution. So this is what it happened to the startup I was working with, because we never talked to the users, and we thought that the platform we were building, it was a bad solution, because we didn't focus on the users, and we didn't focus in the most important, in the problem. We already started with a solution. So that's not the way to go. And what I want you to take away from here is never start with the solution. Start with the problem. Because as product managers and as business owners or as people, by default, we think that our solution is great, our solution is fantastic. So what do you think can be like the real problem for these users? Is definitely user research and discovery. Product discovery, I don't know if you know the term. Basically, it's related about talking with users and interviewing them. So this is basically what I will focus on in this talk. So how to do user research? There are many ways of doing user research, but everything it goes down to talk to customers. Talk to customer in order to know if there is really a problem. For example, in this case, we built a platform, but there were already many platforms out there who were doing the same and broader, and didn't have such a high learning curve, and so on and so forth. So you need to know if your product or the feature enhancement you have is a painkiller or a vitamin. So if it's a painkiller, it's solving a real pain and people are willing to pay for it. But if it's a vitamin, if you take it today, it's okay. If you take it tomorrow, maybe it's also okay. If you don't take it, it's also okay. So people are not willing to pay for vitamins. And also in product, whenever you're building a feature, it's better to remove those features who are not being used or who don't have a high adoption. Okay. And on the next part of the conversation, I also talk to you about the MVP and iteration. But let's start with user research and putting the user at the very center of the ideation problem. So, as you said, you need to know your user, and there are many ways to do so. If you have the chance to have data or even buy data from other companies to better your users, but we also can do a research by qualitative data, interviews and surveys, focus groups, empathy maps, or allow them to interact with low fidelity designs. I don't know if you know, low fidelity design is basically something, a prototype that you can do on a paper, and try at least have users to interact with it or to look at it and get their feedback. So that's pretty much it. And what is so important about interviews? I've done several throughout my career. I find it a very useful, well of truth, where you can achieve the truth you are looking for, but you have to be very careful when you're doing users interviews. As I say, they are a first great approach to learn more about your user's needs and therefore frame better the problem. You are trying to investigate the problem. What is the problem of the users? What is the problem of this giraffe? What are her needs? So whenever you're doing a research, you have to have a specific goal in mind. You cannot ask people to come into your offices and to say, okay, just explain me, what do you think about my product? It's too broad. So you'll be spending time, and maybe if you're paying users for that interview, definitely you are not achieved the truth you are looking for. So to acquire the knowledge you need in order to implement in your product. So for instance, I can talk about mano a mano, and for instance, one user interview we did had a very specific goal in mind. How do merchants feel or do their restocking process? So whenever a product runs out on the platform, they need to update that on our platform. So what processes do they normally follow to do so? So we had a specific goal in mind, and we proceed to ask them. And what we discovered, that there were different types of sellers. They were using the platform in different ways, and it was very difficult to provide a very specific need. But the learnings out of the interview were fantastic, because we learned more about them. We learned about their needs and the specific process they follow normally, and what for. It's the most important. What for? So definitely it's something that we are still to implement on the platform. But yeah, talking with them, it was a great source of knowledge. Another thing about users interviews, and sometimes it's very difficult to not be biased, because as a product manager or as a business owner or as a person who has an idea in mind, it's again, that's a problem, because we have an idea in mind or we have a solution in mind. Whenever you're doing user interview, don't have a solution. Be as as broad as possible, and do not make leading questions. What does it mean, leading question? Sometimes this means that we can influence the answer of the interviewee, because they see as an expert. Okay, this person is interviewing me. This person is a product manager. They know what they want. They know what is good. So if you say something like, oh, do you see this functionality useful? Of course they're gonna say yes, because you put already a word which carries connotations as good connotation. And who are they? Or they will think to say, no, this is not useful. They won't say so. So be careful about that. For example, what you can do A non-leading question can be something like, how do you normally use this? And you can see how they interact with the functionality, if there is already a functionality, or how would you do this, or what do you what do you normally do? So in order to observe, see, and of course gather knowledge. Okay, because it has happened to me that we had unexpected behavior from our users. We expected them to do that, and when they had the functionality, they were doing something different. And there are many examples out there with many companies who even Slack started as being something else, and they realized that people were using it for communication. And definitely this is something that evolves, and we need to learn from our users' behavior. And also avoid closed or questions such as, I don't know, do you use this functionality if we build it, or do you like this? And yes or no questions are not providing you any further information. You need to qualitative data for users to explain as much as possible, and yes or no questions are not taking you where you want to get, which is gathering much more knowledge. So, and never ask, would you use this functionality? Would you pay for this? And this is very funny, and this is a quote I really like to share, because sometimes users don't know what they need. Okay, you need to gather knowledge and draw your own conclusions, and of course build a solution, build an MVP for that, but always rooted in the problem and in the observation you've done. So as Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So people don't know what the best solution is for them. So don't ask them to confirm a solution you have in mind. Just listen carefully and gather as much knowledge as you can, and of course implement it afterwards in a minimum viable product, which is what I'm going to talk next. So an MVP, as you know, an MVP is a minimum viable product, which means building the minimum value that you can deliver to a user. And I will go back to the car example right after this, but MVPs can be something as a prototype, as a very small design that you can use, as I don't know, very rudimentary. It can be a Google form. So if you're thinking about, okay, I don't know, I want to do an online streaming for cinema viewers, so do a survey and ask about it. Or see if people would be willing to sign up. Don't start building a platform, or don't start building already the full website, because you'll be wasting time, and you'll be wasting the opportunity cost there is learning. Okay, so start with something very basic, that's it's an MVP, and iteratively build from there. And MVPs help you to know if you're heading in the right direction. So if this is the business solution, if it's correct, or if people are going to use it, because at the end of the day we want our users to use our product. No, if you need to pivot, which means basically, as I said, Slack in the very beginning, if you need to change the solution, or bring come up with other ideas that solve that users need. And of course, if your idea is solving a real problem and it's a painkiller, that's what you want, you know, because at the end of the day, you want adoption in features, and you want to make money, of course, in both, in a company like where I'm working right now, but also if you have your business idea. So this is what an MVP does, and this is it's a source of acquiring knowledge. So as I was mentioning, an MVP would be like this, okay? MVP value iteration process, which is the most important. For instance, as I said, I was given the example of the previous company I worked for. What we basically did, we went fully for the full product, and it was not a car. It was like something horrible. I'm not horrible, but people were not using it because we never talked to them. And what is the best way to acquire continuous knowledge? Start with something as basic as possible. As I say, a Google form, or something, a basic prototype, and even try to sell it. Even try people to interact with it. So the real MVP is, for example, Henry Ford was trying to solve was trying to solve transport. No, make transport as quick as possible, and you need to know if that's a problem. No, you thought you according to the information you have, you think that of course we will want to move faster and get to places sooner. So what definitely you need to start, and the value you need to deliver in the first place, start with the skateboard. It's still meeting the kind of solving the solution, and you can gather feedback. I don't know, a skateboard isn't stable. A skateboard, it has a learning curve. You need more stability, and of course, iterate on that very first prototype. If it's, I don't know if you're thinking about hardware, which is this case, but if you're thinking about an online product, start with a survey, start with a Google form, start with a video. As you know, probably Dropbox started with the videos in the very beginning. So build and continuously iterate on that idea, because you won't be spending money to build the full car from the very beginning. And normally, what they say about an MVP is disposable, which means probably you'll end up throwing it away, because you won't use, for example, the code you start in an MVP will have to evolve in the future. So spend as less time as possible, as less money as possible, and just put it out there and gather feedback. So that's the objective of it. And I do consider MVPs as part of research. It's research, I think it's something continuous, something that you continuously have to do and continuously have to gather knowledge. Okay. So we started, the problem was that we started with directly with a solution. Okay. We started, if you check out this design sprint method, which you probably know, and if not, I would really suggest you to watch the video online or read the book, because it's super useful. We started with the idea, no? We started from the very beginning with the idea, and that's what is happened at the company I worked beforehand. And we realized that it was not the best solution. We never talked with the user, we never empathized with users. So definitely what you need to start with is with the users at the very beginning. I don't know if you can see, like, the first step, empathizes them. Try to put yourself in their shoes, learn, and definitely define what the solution is, what the problem is, sorry. Define the problem, and then create a solution, which can be, as I said, a very basic design that you're going to continuously work on. Okay. Now, if you know tools for design, very balsamic, for instance, you can use, and there are many Marvel app, very cheap and economic, or even a free ways of prototype or design. And then, of course, you need to test it with the design. Go back again, learn, and continue to implement. So start from the skateboard from the very beginning, do the bike, do the motorbike, and then you have the full car. Okay, so this is the way the way to do. So yes, what I would like you in general, the main takeaways from you, I would like you to take away is basically start always with the research. Research can be whatever, be talking with users, do empathy maps, do surveys, and try to have always users, you know, on you're building for them. You're trying your product or your business, whatever you're trying to come up with in this specific moment is for them. No, so Amazon, if this is a so successful business, it's basically because it's meeting a need, and they starting in the very beginning, as you know, being an online bookstore. So, and look where they are today. So they evolved, and they started with something very basic, and they evolved until the big, gigantic users that are today. So build an MVP, to be something very basic, and of course, iterate. And yes, this is pretty much the knowledge I wanted to share with you. I hope it had been useful, and I would do suggest some extra information if you're interested or you want to contact with me. For instance, I have a podcast where I've interviewed some people, especially I interviewed someone who is called Rob Fitzpatrick, and they built the mom test and how to talk to customers and gather knowledge. So it definitely, I don't know if we can share this this speech, this presentation at the very end, so you can listen to it. And of course, there are many online resources that you can use, as the one I've used in the presentation, which is the Nelson Norman group. I would also so thank you so much. And yes, please feel free to contact with me and let me know your question.